Hey Dragon Slayers! Today's video is about intermittent fasting and its importance to reversing insulin resistance. The timing of meals is an important topic, as most people are eating more frequently now than ever before. In fact, just about 30 years ago, most adults and children had daily meals separated by almost 5 hours, whereas today, this number is down to about 3.5 hours. And this doesn't include snacking meals between, something that generally didn't occur in the 1980s. A common thread among many dietary plans is when and how often to eat. The advice varies. Some approaches involve compressing periods of eating to 2 or 3 meals per day with substantial gaps in between, while other strategies suggest eating normally for a few days, then avoiding food entirely for a day. On the other end of the spectrum, some diets encourage grazing, which is eating 6 to 8 small meals per day. This is the antithesis of time restricted eating. As you now know, when we eat a meal, especially certain foods, our blood insulin rises to control glucose levels. Because elevated insulin is one of the most relevant factors in developing insulin resistance, it makes sense to follow a dietary plan that incorporates periods of time throughout the day when insulin is kept low. So, right away, you've probably guessed that more frequent eating isn't effective at controlling insulin. When looking at the data on timing of eating, two factors become relevant: how the person eats day to day and month to month on a larger time scale. Patients who fast for 24 hours, roughly once monthly, are about half as likely to be insulin resistant compared to those who don't. And at the shorter end, within each day, eating fewer larger meals, elicits a greater improvement than eating several smaller meals throughout the day. Very likely, the insulin benefit in eating fewer meals in the day is simply a consequence of having longer periods of time when glucose and insulin are normal in between meals. If you have more frequent meals, insulin levels would increase every couple of hours, regardless of how much you ate. If 3 large meals per day is better than 6 small ones, are fewer meals than 3 the best of all? Possibly. Fasting involves eating normally for some period of time with strategic periods of food avoidance. No need to count calories at all. There is evidence to show fasting is effective at improving insulin sensitivity, though it partially depends on how it's done. Two studies looked at intermittent fasting by having subjects eat normally one day and essentially fast the entire next day. Repeated 7 times over a 2 week period, the two studies found conflicting results. One reported an improvement in insulin sensitivity, while the other observed no benefit. By contrast, a recent study on the use of intermittent fasting in insulin treated people with type 2 diabetes found that frequent, meaning a few times weekly, 24-hour fasts were so effective in improving insulin sensitivity that participants were able to cease insulin use. It was deprescribed. In fact, for one person, it happened in only 5 days. The alternative strategy is to confine eating to a specific window of time each day. So you'd end up eating breakfast and lunch only, or lunch and dinner only. In these time restricted eating studies, participants saw robust improvements in insulin sensitivity. It may sound strange, but many of the benefits of fasting are caused by changes in hormones. Of course, insulin drops quickly with a fast, but insulin's opposite, glucagon, rises. It's important to understand glucagon to truly appreciate the power of a fast. Where insulin tries to save energy in the body, glucagon wants to spend it. They are two sides of the same metabolic coin. Glucagon wants the body to release its stored energy by pushing the fat cells to share their fat and the liver to share its glucose. Because insulin and glucagon work against each other to activate and inhibit metabolic processes, the balance of these two hormones dictates which process actually occurs. Thus, looking at fasting and even eating through the lens of insulin glucagon ratio is very helpful. So, some examples are when insulin is high and glucagon is low, this inhibits fat loss, increases fat storage, inhibits liver glycogen use, increases liver glycogen storage, inhibits ketogenesis, and inhibits autophagy. However, the reverse is true. When insulin is low and glucagon is high, it activates fat storage, it activates fat usage, inhibits fat storage, activates liver glycogen use, inhibits liver glycogen storage, and activates ketogenesis, as well as activating autophagy. So that's what I've got for you guys today. Don't forget to like and subscribe because it really helps the channel out. And remember, guys, that together, you and I will slay the dreaded diabetes dragon.